So our next review is going to be a series called Friday the 13th. There's 8 movies that came out in the 80s for Friday the 13th. And instead of doing each one individually, which would take way too long, we're just going to tackle that whole series right now. And we're going to go from part 1 all the way to part 8. So if it seems a little rushed and it seems like we're kind of going through it, bear with us. We're going to give you all the information and all the great goodies from each movie.
But quickly.
Because there's so many movies in the 80s. I think they came out with a movie every single year, every other year, which is awesome. We're not going to talk about Jason Goes to Hell or Jason X because those weren't in the 80s. Those were in the 90s and the 2000s. So let's get rolling with the first one, Friday the 13th Part 1. It takes place at Camp Crystal Lake, and the point of the movie is that Jason is this character. He's this kid. He drowns in the lake because a lot of the camp counselors are what? They're
just totally promiscuous. Like it's like funny they go to camp not because they want to be with the kids. They go to camp because
they want to hook up.
Yeah. I mean,
why else would you go to camp as a counselor? You hook up.
It's totally like Wet Hot American Summer, but like the horror version.
Yeah, getting murdered.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Jason Voorhees is going to sneak in there at some point. I think the thing, there's a couple scenes in the movie that just I love, but the one that just sets up the movie completely is when the main protagonist in the movie, I can't remember her name. I mean, there's so many protagonists in the series, but when she's trying to find Camp Crystal Lake and she sees the old hobo like on the bike, and she comes up to him and she goes, "Hey, where's Camp Crystal Lake?" And he kind of directs her, and then as she's driving away, he says, "You're doomed. You're all doomed." It's like. That's the perfect setup for the movie.
Because I can remember in the first one, did they refer to it as Camp Blood yet or no? Because they eventually refer to it as Camp Blood.
Dude. It's
I don't think they do in the first one.
But, so, anyways, we're gonna give you a couple spoilers in the movies, but bear with us.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So, it turns out that in the movie, the serial killer isn't Jason Voorhees. We're all familiar with Jason Voorhees. He has the hockey mask. He's the unstoppable serial killer. He has the potato sack in part 2.
But you have to remember when this originally came out in 81?
Yeah.
That people didn't know who Jason Voorhees was yet.
So when you said Friday the 13th, they didn't assume like, oh, hockey mask, Jason Voorhees. They just
not
were
this iconic horror character.
Exactly. So it turns out that the killer in the movie is Mrs. Voorhees, and she's getting revenge on the camp counselors because her son Jason Voorhees drowned in the lake. I think he might have been like a handicapped kid. He was some deformities, and so he couldn't swim, and they weren't paying attention because they're being promiscuous or smoking weed or doing whatever. So, anyways, she takes revenge on the kids, and that she's the killer in part 1. And side note for part 1, there's a very famous actor in part 1 who gets murdered, Mr.
Kevin Bacon,
Footloose himself. Yeah.
Footloose. His neck wasn't so footloose.
Yeah, he's like, hey, everybody, let's dance! Oh!
Fun fact, I think Tom Savini, the great special effects artist, helped set up that scene where the arrow, Mrs. Voorhees shoves the arrow through, which you don't know who it is. Yeah. It's not, you don't know it's Mrs. Voorhees yet. But she's the one who shoves the arrow through Kevin Bacon's neck from underneath the bed. Kevin's Bacon's. Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
Kevin Bacon dies.
There's gonna be lots of spoiler alerts throughout this whole review. But so part 1, you got the mother established as the killer. The heroine at the end, she cuts off the mom, Mrs. Voorhees' head.
Her head. Yeah,
and decapitates her. And then it goes to this really serene scene where the heroine, the main girl, is on the lake in a rowboat, which is one of the most shocking endings for any movie ever. Yeah. Where all of a sudden it's like everything's okay. She's the one who's safe. Everyone else is dead. All of her friends, all the other counselors.
She's floating in the lake. With the guy.
And then all of a sudden,
Jason
this
Voorhees,
deformed kid comes up and in slow motion grabs her out of the boat and pulls her underneath the water. And then it cuts to her at the hospital, in a hospital bed at the end, right?
Yeah. Well, And
it's a little confusing.
So that's the end of part 1. So then now part 2, it kind of takes place right after part 1. More or less, I mean, I don't know if it's like the same week or the following year or whatever, but it takes place. And so this is where we actually get introduced to Jason Voorhees. Mm-hmm. And this is Jason Voorhees with the potato sack. And I don't know why they, I think they wanted to introduce Jason Voorhees because at the end of part 1 where he kind of came back and just kind of like that, the metaphor that, hey, he's still alive or something.
And he's kind of deformed, so I think the fact that like the potato sack was to try to cover that deformity.
Yeah,
hide his face.
And so he's kind of like this huge country bumpkin where he's kind of huge and he wears does he wear overalls? I don't know what he wears in the
it's like overalls and a potato
sack. And so he's really like kind of.
He might as well be playing a banjo while he's chasing after the counselors.
So anyways, he goes and there's a fresh crop of camp counselors. They're smoking weed. They're smoking out in the car. Who knows what they're doing? But here they come. And okay, it's part 2. I don't think it's
the wheelchair.
Is it part 2 or part 3? I can't remember.
Wheelchair.
It's the wheelchair.
No, it's part 2.
So part 2 is the wheelchair. It's probably one of the most.
Who looks like Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Yeah,
it's one of the most iconic scenes in the franchise where. I mean, not even a kid in a wheelchair is spared. He gets iced, and not even in a nice way, No,
he gets a machete to the face by Jason, who you don't see. All of a sudden, he gets a machete to the face, and then all of a sudden he starts rolling backwards because he's brain dead. And there's a huge staircase leading down to the beach or whatever.
But he's flying down the stairs, boom, with a machete to his head. And so, anyway, so that scene. So, in this one, there's a fresh crop of counselors. They're telling the story of whatever Camp Blood. That's probably where they mentioned it, Camp Blood. Yeah. And so then, the way the heroine gets away from this one is she finds this lair where
Jason's been living.
Yeah, where he's living, and he has the decapitated head of his mother.
Yep.
And so then the heroine puts on a sweater and then pretends like she's his mother and psychs him out or whatever. And so he kind of falls for it, and then she takes an axe to or a machete to his head and kind of gets away that way.
Yeah.
And so then that one ends. So that's the end of part 2, and then we get to part 3. And part 3 is kind of the more crucial one because it's in 3D. And so
part 3 in 3D.
Yeah. And so that one has one of the most iconic characters in the series. His name's Harold. Just kidding. Harold. And so
just watch it.
Just watch it. You'll see what we're talking about. We love Harold. But anyways, part 3 is kind of like the actual setup where the Friday the 13th series gets rolling because it introduces the hockey mask.
Yep.
It introduces kind of the more campiness of it because they make it in 3D, so they have a lot of shots where they do that 3D
stuff is
effects.
approaching the camera. But the most famous of all is when Jason grabs this actor's head, Paul Kratka.
Who is an amazing, what is he? Chiropractor?
Yeah, he's a chiropractor. But he crushes Paul Kratka's head until Paul Kratka's eyeball shoots out at the screen, and then it cuts to the next scene. But anyway, so it's the total campy 80s 3D effects, whatever, Jaws in 3D, all that stuff.
And so anyway, so this one introduces the hockey mask. Halfway through the movie, he has the potato sack, but then he gets the hockey mask towards the end, and then he
becomes the iconic character. He will be thereafter.
So that's right. So you are now, when you think of Jason Voorhees from part 3 and on, it's the hockey mask, Jason, Friday the 13th. That correlation is there. So anyways, honestly, I can't even remember because there's 6 more movies. I don't even know how he dies in this one. I think he gets hanged or hung. I can't remember.
Anyway, crap.
So part 3 moves on.
Just watch it.
Yeah. So part 3 is kind of I would say it's the end of the first 2, the trilogy, because part 4, 5, and 6 is this more kind of golden era of Friday the 13th where it's way more campy. There's a lot more comedic value to it, and the kills and the style of kills are a lot more entertaining in the sense of how he goes about it. So Jason 4, 5, and 6 introduced a very
Friday the 13th, 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, sorry. Friday the 13th, part 4, 5, and 6 introduced the main protagonist of those 4 series, which is a character named Tommy Jarvis.
Yep.
And so in part 4...
A.K.A. Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman. Yes, I love Corey Feldman. Yes. But in part 4, instead of it taking place at a campground or whatever, it takes place at a house party. And so this one it introduces all the waste away characters, the characters that are just gonna die right off the bat.
The characters are hilarious in this one, including Crispin Glover.
Oh,
also known as Marty McFly's dad in Back to the Future.
The computer thing.
And so that, and then the twin. They had the twins in it. Then the banana girl. Is in it.
Oh,
so
that is.
This is the one where the banana girl's in. Then they have the 2 greaser guys.
Yep.
And so there's so many characters in the movie, but Tommy Jarvis is the main character, Corey Feldman. And so whatchamacallit? Jason is killing. There's no rhyme or reason to why he's doing it either. It's not like in Halloween, like Michael Myers.
Well, it's for fun at this point.
At this point, it's just like, all right, body count, So like Halloween,
this is my lake.
Yeah, Michael Myers was chasing Laurie Strode for some reason, but it was his sister. Here, there's just no rhyme or reason. So Jason has a fresh crop of teens. He wipes them out, and then for the first time, our lead is a male. It's a boy, and his name's Tommy Jarvis, and he psychs Jason out by shaving his head off and pretending he's Jason.
Yep.
Which is really...
Even though he looks like a young Uncle Fester.
Yeah, exactly. He looks like he's off drugs already by that point. So I don't know if that was makeup for the movie or if that was just actual...
Friday the 13th Part 4.
Yeah.
Corey coked up. No, but I just have to say really quick, there's super famous parts of this movie. The Crispin Glover dance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The characters are hilarious. Like all the adults or older teens, young adults, whatever, are hilarious. This one establishes Jason's unique kills for sure, where he kills people in unique ways, including corkscrews, axes, whatever. So this is a great one though, and it includes one of my favorite lines throughout the entire Friday the 13th Friday the 13th series, which is, "Get out of here! He's killing me!"
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Wow. So there's this like I call them pretend protagonists, which like the guys who look like they're like the
I call them a temporary protagonist.
Yeah. So like they're the guys that look like they're the hero and everything, and then they just get wiped out when they meet the antagonist. And so there's this guy who's throughout the whole movie. He has like a gun. He's searching for his sister, who knows what, and then he meets face to face with Jason, and
he meets up with Corey Feldman's sister and him, and he's like, "I'm going to lead you guys to safety." Kind of is the feeling you get.
And so then the next scene, or one of the scenes that follows, is he's in the basement. He's in the basement, and then all you hear is like, "He's killing me!"
Yeah, run! He's killing me! And Jason, you just see Jason in the dark just stabbing him over and over again. It's so cool.
Well, that's the end of him.
Yeah, the girl's like, "Ah!" She just runs.
And so then Tommy Jarvis psychs out Jason with his shaved head and drugged out eyes, and Jason is like in a trance, and so he looks at Tommy Jarvis, and then Tommy Jarvis. What I love about this scene is he takes Jason's machete and starts whacking him in the head, and then
this is where Jason his mask comes off, and so you see his deformed face too. And the great scene again, Tom Savini. This is his work on Part 4. Where he hits him in the head with a machete, and then Jason falls face first, like on his stomach on the ground, because he's like dead or unconscious or whatever. And the machete slides through his skull slowly, and like goop is dripping out. And then Tommy Jarvis starts going, "Die, die!" and like starts whacking him with an axe.
What I love about that scene is that like he's like, "Die, die!" and it's like in slow motion, and then like the sister's like, "Oh!" like she's like afraid. Now she's scared of her brother. It's like, okay. And so then, is this the one at the very end where they're at the hospital, and then Tommy Jarvis puts on the mask?
She hugs. Well, I'm trying to remember, dude.
I think so. Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen some of these, but we see them every Halloween, so it's been like at least a year.
You know what? Just go watch it.
We'll go watch it. So that's Part 4. Okay. So then Part 5. Okay,
new beginning.
So Part 5 is and so Part 4, 5, and 6, and 7, and whatever, they kind of start adding their own tagline. So Part 4 is Jason.
The final chapter.
The final chapter.
So just for the record, too, Part 4 was supposed to be it.
That was
supposed to be done.
Done with the thing. But they were clamoring for more Jason. So, okay, so we're going to talk about 5, and 5 has a really big spoiler, so just a heads up, okay? And I'll give you a heads up before I say it. So, Part 5 it follows Tommy Jarvis, and now he's like, maybe he's like 19, 20, and he's kind of gone crazy. He has like these psychotic episodes where he sees Jason and he takes pills and everything.
Understandable.
I mean, he experienced something traumatic. So he goes to this group home with other teenagers or college students or whatever.
Troubled kids. Or whatever.
Yeah. And so he's there, and he's got like such a temper. Like he's got a huge temper, and he sees like all these things. He's seen Jason. He just keeps seeing Jason. And so the whole thing that starts this movie is that he's at the group home, and then there's this really like fat, socially awkward, like lowly kid. What was his name?
Joey.
I don't remember.
Joey.
Yeah, Joey. And so he's got like chocolate bar all over his face.
He's like, "You want some chocolate?"
Yeah, and so he's like kind of like he's just so like awkward and social, and like it seems like no one likes him. Like he's just so annoying. And so then he gets to this guy who's chopping wood.
Vic.
Yeah, he's good. He's good with the Vic, and he's chopping wood. He's like, he's so nice to Vic. He's like, hey, Vic, do you want a candy?
Want chocolate
yeah, do you want a chocolate
some candy?
Do you want
I'll
some
split it with you.
I'll split it. And then Vic's like, no, I don't want it. You know, he
chops it in half, says, just leave me alone.
Yeah. And so then, what was the guy's name? The nerd? Joey's like, well, you know what? Then if you don't want it,
just forget it,
then
Vic.
you can forget it, Vic. And it's like, you know, I've seen people be way more mean where they're like, F you blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like, no, he's like, well, you can just forget it. Like, in the nicest way possible.
And Joey, the nerd, turns his back on Vic, and then
Vic's like, ah! And he just axes him. For what?
In the back.
For a candy bar? For not, I don't even know why. He just snaps and axes.
The greatest scene, though, is where they pan all the other, like, kids' face, or the teenagers' face, and they're all like, and as they're screaming, it cuts directly to the sirens of the ambulance. It's like, brrr, it's coming in to pick up his dead body.
So, anyways, they
Isn't this a movie that has Reggie in it?
Oh yeah, Reggie.
Yes. Okay.
Reggie.
We gotta keep rolling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so we get the paramedics pick up the Joey and they throw him in, and that was kind of like the preface that something's not right. It seems like there's gonna be more death.
Yeah.
And so the movie gets going, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, people start dying, and you don't know who's killing them. And then it's not really, if you actually think about it, it's not really shown who kills the people.
No, you just assume it's Jason Voorhees.
You assume it's Jason Voorhees, but at the same time, this movie is actually giving you the idea that Tommy Jarvis is doing it. Because at the end of part 4, Tommy Jarvis, it seemed like he was turning into Jason.
He's having a psychotic break, so you think he's the one doing this.
Yeah, so you think he's the one killing people or whatever. And so then, like, a lot of people start dying and everything. And
in other interesting ways established in part 4,
this one probably has the most craziest ways of, you know, that people die. But anyways, so as the movie goes on, towards the end, body gets thrown through the window, and then who comes through the door? Jason. Yeah. And then Tommy Jarvis, his fears all come to life, all come to light, and he's freaking out. So anyways,
that's when you know it's not him.
Yeah, so that's when you know that's not Tommy Jarvis and it's Jason. So then they go and they're going around, they're looking, you know, for other survivors and everything, and Jason's, you know, picking them off one by one. And they get to one of our favorite scenes. They get to the ambulance. Tommy Jarvis gets split up from the female character and Reggie, who's this little black kid who's probably the best character in there.
He has a tracksuit on the
whole time.
He has
a tracksuit on the whole time. They get to an ambulance, and they open the ambulance door, and one of the paramedics falls out, and he's dead.
With his, like, throat slit open.
Yeah. And then, like, Jason pops up from the other side of the door.
Reggie,
and
run!
Reggie's like, or the girl's like, run, Reggie, run! And Reggie's like, ah! And he books it, man. Like, I've never seen him get so, like...
He is so quick.
Oh my gosh! Like he didn't even think twice.
He leaves that white girl behind.
Yeah, he didn't even think twice about saving her. He's like, "Peace, later, babe." And so he just takes off. Which, oh my gosh, it's still one of the funniest scenes ever. But it's like, if I was Reggie's age, I'd be like, seriously, later. Like, I'm out, you know. And so, so he takes off. They end up in the barn, and so then Jason's there, and he's trying to kill the girl and Reggie. And then Tommy Jarvis, and they're all there. And so they're all kind of fighting Jason at the same time with different things. And then Reggie hits Jason with the tractor, and then Jason falls out and he dies. So anyways, part 5 is great. The only thing, and here's the spoiler. Spoiler, here we go. It's not actually Jason Voorhees. It's a copycat killer. So part 5 really upset a lot of people because it wasn't even Jason the whole movie. It was just like...
It was the father of Joey, the fat kid with the chocolate bar at the beginning, who got massacred by that guy Vic. Yeah. That's his dad. Yeah. Who was the paramedic who came and picked up his dead son's body.
Which made him snap and then go into... So anyways, so then Tommy Jarvis survives. The lady survives, Reggie survives. But at the end... Tommy Jarvis puts on the hockey mask, and it's, you know, portrayed that he's going to become Jason again. So then that's part 5. So part 6, Jason Lives. My favorite of all the Friday the 13th part series. This is one of my favorite movies in general.
I will agree. This is a great one.
This is the great one. It starts off so awesome because it starts off with Tommy Jarvis. He's played by a different character now. He comes and he just can't get over it. So now...
It's him and a friend digging up Jason's grave in a cemetery.
Because they want to get rid of him. They want to burn him. So Jason hasn't been a supernatural force. He's dead. He's been dead. But Tommy Jarvis has to dig him up and burn his body just to be sure. And this movie just kicks you right in the, you know, wherever... just to get going. And I love the eeriness. I love that it's raining. I love that everything's going on.
It's a total homage to like the original Frankenstein movies or things like original horror movies.
So, long story short, they dig up Jason's grave, they throw the gas, they stick a rod in him for whatever reason.
They burn him and then they stab him, but then the rod gets struck by lightning, right?
So, well, they never get to burn him because it starts raining.
Oh, that's
so
right.
So then they stick the rod and then they get struck by lightning.
Yep.
So now it's not just regular Jason Voorhees, it's super Jason Voorhees. And so now he's like an unstoppable force. And he like wastes his friend by punching it through his stomach to the other side. Yeah. And then Jason Part 6 is going. Jason lives. And so this movie is way campy.
It's got the James Bond intro.
By the way,
the James Bond. Jason walks across the street, down, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it has that. It's got such a campy feel. A lot of the characters, there's a lot of like, there's
over the top funny,
weird, quirky music, and Tommy Jarvis is even more likable in this one because he's not like a hot.
You gotta believe me.
You gotta believe, yeah. And so, and then the sheriff and oh my gosh. So, anyways, Part 6, definitely check that one out. Long story short, they're back at the camp at Camp Crystal Lake, and it's probably one of the best Friday the 13th from start to finish because the storyline is great and how Tommy Jarvis is the protagonist and he's trying to save the day and the way he has to get to Jason and all the other sub characters in the movie make it that much better. The next one is Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. This one is different than the other ones because it introduces a character. She's the main protagonist, and she kind of has these telekinetic powers, which kind of measure up to Jason's brute force of, supernatural killer. And it kind of gives a different aspect to where most people had to use their wits to get away with him. She could actually match him, like, not pound for pound, but, kind
of blow for blow.
Yeah, blow for blow. And so the whole idea is it kind of starts off where she's being taught how to swim, and she gets thrown in the lake by her father or something. And then, like, her father gets dragged down by Jason, and all this stuff happens. And so, anyways, she, like, her father's doing something, and she uses her telekinetic powers in the beginning when she's a kid, and her father kind of dies or whatever. So, throughout the movie... whatever, yeah. Well, you'll find out later in the movie. And so then, she has, like, a doctor, and the doctor is really sleazy, or he's a psychiatrist or something, and he's trying...
He's a weirdo,
yeah. I don't know if he's trying to, like... harvest her powers for whatever he wants, or I don't know, but he keeps pushing her to the limit of wanting her to do these things. But this movie follows the same staple of all the other ones. Fresh crop of kids, they all are partying, doing whatever.
Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah. And then she's like kind of like the nerd or whatever. She's kind of the weirdo,
outcast,
weirdo. And so it's kind of cool if you think about it because it's kind of like if you would think of a match, it's kind of like Carrie. That we read earlier versus Jason. Yeah. And so at the end, they kind of have this match where, like, Jason, like, corners her, and she's, like, then she starts using her telekinetic powers to kind of, like, fight him back.
She thrashes him.
and it's awesome. And so, in the end, her father, it's a really weird ending, because at the end, her father comes back and drags Jason back into the lake, which I didn't really understand. But that's how it ends.
Yeah, he comes back to life almost as a spirit or a ghost or something. Yeah. Even though he looks normal.
Yeah.
When he comes out of the lake, he's not like... It's not like he's a zombie looking thing. He's just like a normal guy. And he comes out and drags him down.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a really weird, like, ending. But anyways, two things about this one. It has the iconic death scene where the girl gets hit on the tree with the sleeping bag.
Yeah.
And this is our first introduction to Kane Hodder as Jason. And so what gave him high praise was that he was able to do a lot more physical attributes that the other guys didn't do, like taking bumps that the other guys were a little more stiff and kind of just like walking and chasing. He was a lot more mobile and agile in the way he attacked and got beat up. So.
Well, and also the way they always talk about the way he breathed, like the way he took breaths, where he would not just be standing still like the previous Jasons, but he'd have this really menacing, huge, powerful chest where he'd be going.
Oh yeah.
Like he would start to be mobile just by breathing, and it was much more menacing because you knew he was super strong, supernatural. Like Anyway, so Kane Hodder's super famous. He travels all around the world signing autographs and everything else.
So Friday the 13th Part 7, check it out. It's kind of like this is where I think Part 6 was where like it hit its peak.
Yeah, this is a Fonzie moment. This is where it starts to jump the shark a little bit.
It kind of like they're going in different directions, and it's kind of going downhill after this. So, part 7, definitely worth a check just to complete the series. But yeah, the next one on our list is Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. I have no idea why this movie is called Jason Takes Manhattan. It should be called Jason
Takes a Cruise?
Yeah, Jason on a cruise ship. So it's really funny because it revolves around these high schoolers or seniors that just graduated, and they take a cruise ship on like a garbage ship or something. Like, it's just like
it's not a garbage ship.
It's like a tugboat or something. Yeah. It's not a cruise ship whatsoever. It's so
so true,
it's so ridiculous. Like, nothing in that boat said cruise ship. It just like it looked
I just love
it
the
was
cruises
just a ship
that
like people were on.
Yeah.
I just love the cruises launch off from Camp Crystal Lake, basically.
Yeah.
They're like, here's a good spot.
They went from the lake into the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, to New York.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
The how's that?
Yeah,
happen?
where's the channel?
Yeah. And so, anyways, Jason starts off in different high school graduates. Congratulations, in different ways on the boat. And so then they eventually make it to Manhattan, and so they make it to Manhattan,
which is, by the way, the most misleading title, like you said, because they make it to Manhattan. Jason only appears in Manhattan because of budget restraints, is what I read. They only were able to film in New York, I think, for 2 days.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So the fact of it is that they built the whole movie around those 2 days they filmed in New York. Where he was in New York, and people were like, wow, Jason's here, this is so cool, they're filming, next Friday the 13th. And they built the whole movie around that, even though it's literally the last, 20 minutes?
It's about 25 minutes,
yeah.
And so, so the last 25 minutes, he's in Manhattan, and he interacts. I mean, actually, if you think about it, Jason is actually a saint in this movie, because he does rescue the main female protagonist, or no, she's the main protagonist she's gonna get raped by these 2 junkies. And he totally saves her. So I'm like, this guy, he's got a soft heart. He's like,
he's a saint.
He kicks over stereos in front of gangsters.
Yeah,
he knocks people's heads off with a punch. But he's a good guy.
It's kind of funny because when I realize when he's in the actual real world, like not like Camp Crystal Lake or wherever isolated, when he's exposed to multiple people, it seems like he has some social anxiety because he's not murdering. He's not murdering people left and right. It's like he's a little more tame. And if you think about it, the guy.
But no, they're not the camp counselors who let him drown, though. Think about it.
Oh, that's true.
They're random people.
But these aren't camp counselors either. These are high school seniors that just graduated from.
Well, yeah, but they started the cruise on Camp Crystal Lake, which there's no excuse of how they got to the ocean to get to New York. Your point earlier, so
you're right. So, anyways,
he's mad at that fjord that leads him to the ocean. That's what it is.
The chick that rocks a guitar.
Oh, her too. That's a whole different.
So she's amazing.
That's back on the boat. So, anyways, in Manhattan, he goes there. He follows the people. They end up in the sewer. And one of the weirdest endings to the Friday the 13th series.
Ending. Yeah.
He's in the sewer, and then the water from the sewer is rising up. And then he's having a convulsion. He's like, oh, Jason, his mask falls off. This is water, mind you, not like lava. And so he falls.
Well, it's sewage water.
Well, it's sewage water. But yeah, that's it. That's what's gonna do him in. 8 movies in, sewage water. That's it.
Jason eats poop.
Yeah. And so Jason goes down. The sewage water drowns him. He comes back without his mask, and then he goes back into the water. And then when the water clears, he's like a young boy,
child. Yeah.
Like he drowned in Crystal Lake. And it's one of the weirdest endings to a series. And I say it's the ending to the series because this was the official ending to the actual Friday the 13th series.
Right.
Because the other Jason movies weren't called Friday the 13th. They were called Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. So they're not part of the Friday the 13th series. It's the same universe, but this is the official end of the Friday the 13th series, not counting remakes or Freddy vs. Jason.
Yep.
So anyways, thank you for enduring this marathon, but we had to get through all of those 8 movies. Definitely check them out. They're fun movies. Forewarning, there is nudity in it, some swearing and, gore, but it's campy, it's fun, and yeah, definitely check it out for Halloween. Before we officially finish our Friday the 13th series, Chris, Jordan, and I are going to just give you our favorite ones from the franchise. So, Jordan.
I would have to say part 4, the final chapter,
okay.
Because It has Crispin Glover with the dance. It has all these awkward people. It introduces Tommy Jarvis, Corey Feldman. The death scenes are the first ones where they become very creative and very funny. And I think it's the first one where it takes itself way less seriously. Even though part 3 did, but with the 3D stuff. But I think part 4, for me, overall, again, I'm not saying watch it first. Go through all of them, because you'll see how bad it gets by the time you get to Jason Takes Manhattan. That one's the worst, dude. But,
so much promise.
Yeah, so much promise. But yeah, so I would say part 4 is my favorite. Chris, what do you think?
I still think, like, I think part 1 is my favorite.
Okay.
I mean, it establishes a series. It's just so fun. Like, I think part of the reason I love number 1 is by the time I actually got introduced to the series, it was probably like somewhere around number 5 or number 6.
Okay.
And so it was just kind of cool, like seeing like, whoa, the killer's not actually Jason Voorhees. It's something else. And I think it just the night I'm really about introductions and origin stories. And
are you?
Yes. And I love the origin series of this series.
Okay. Well, like I said before, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives is by far my favorite ones. I mean, I love the other ones, they're great, but this one just, from start to finish, I just love the setting, the characters, the comedic aspect, the entertainment, the scariness, all of it, from start to finish. Friday the 13th Part 6, for me, lives up to the hype. If there was one movie you'd want to start with, if you didn't care about the other ones and you just wanted to get into some of the action of the movies and the funness of it, that's the one I would start with. So that one's definitely my favorite. So anyways, Friday the 13th, the series, or not the TV show, but the movie series, 1 through 8, check them out this Halloween.
Classic.